I often ask this question of students and parents when I'm in a live audience, but I have a survey at the Princeton Review, and it's an annual survey. And those of you who've heard me speak before, I do a lot of gigs on television, so I quote this survey often, and it's called College Hopes and Worries. And we had a little over 11,000 college-bound students and their parents complete the survey this past academic year. And we've been doing this survey annually now for 16 years cumulatively. So we have a ton of data looking back in time, but the most appropriate one just came out in March of this year. And what we found was that college-bound students and their parents were definitely scared, stressed, and nervous about the college process. But the biggest reason, and 100%, I'm just going to say that again, 100% of students and their parents, 11,000 that completed the survey this past year, agreed that their biggest point of concern, their biggest point of stress was graduating from school with too much debt, the level of indebtedness that they would actually be burdened with upon graduation. A very close second was that students would get into their first choice schools, but families wouldn't be able to pay for it. So folks, if you are scared, stressed, and nervous about the college process, and some of that, or the majority of it, comes from the idea of paying for school, and again, no matter how financially blessed we are, maybe you have 2 kids in school at the same time, or you don't know how to navigate that now through the light or through the lens of COVID-19 and its repercussions financially and otherwise. Again, you are absolutely the norm when it comes to students and parents in this regard. Now I do have a couple of slides I want to show you. Leah, I can progress my slides forward. I'm still seeing that poll on my screen. Okay, yeah. So folks, I'm going to ask you this question. When we said, when this College Hopes and Worries data, College Hopes and Worries data came out this past year, and it's been pretty consistent over the last 3 to 5 years of time in that idea of what has made students and parents nervous, being the cost and the indebtedness that students would graduate with. But we said, listen, this past year, listen, if we know that college cost is such a burden and such a specter for so many students and parents, what does that group, that 11,000, that group of 11,000 college-bound students and parents just this past March, what did they actually think college was going to cost? So you could look at my graph here. You see 43% said it's going to cost $100,000 or more. 75 to 24% said 75 to 100. You can read the slides, but I want to make sure that we, the cumulative we in this classroom tonight, this Zoom classroom, know what the real costs are. Now, Leah has put together another poll, and I'm just going to walk you through this. Total cost of attendance. Now, that's what we call at the Princeton Review the Big Four. And that's tuition, room and board, fees, and books. So I'm just going to put this out there. There's a poll in there, and Leah's going to launch it, but I want you to answer, students and parents, I want you to answer this question. What does it cost to attend, on average, 1 year of public college, average across the states? Now, again, I'm going to remind you the Big Four. Tuition, this is in-state tuition, if it's public, room and board, fees, and books. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds just to do that, and you guys slug in what you think is the real number, and then I'm going to reveal it. Excellent. We have people are still clicking. We have 25 seconds on the clock still, so you can put in your choices. This is very interesting. We have 59% saying 25 to 50,000. Are they right? Who knows? Well, we know. Excellent. Folks, you want to put out, Leah, do you want to show the results, or do you want me to walk them through their results?
I got them right there. Could you see them?
Awesome. I can see them now, and attendees are now viewing the poll results. Excellent, excellent. So we have the majority of folks saying, 57% saying it's going to cost $25,000 to $50,000. The next biggest cohort saying 51 to 75. So I'm going to exit out the results, and I'm going to show you the real number. The real number this year, oops, I'm sorry, is $21,370. So folks, the majority of people are getting this right, and that is awesome. That means you are a well-educated consumer population going to college. But folks, let's look to the sometimes heart-stoppingly expensive side of the fence. Same question, we're gonna put up a poll. Again, private schools, the Big Four, tuition, room and board, fees, and books. What is the average cost to go to 1 year of private college? Leah, let's launch the poll. Okay, folks, it's up there. Tuition, room and board, fees, and books. What do we think? Oh God, this is a good group. I'm loving it. We still have people clicking in. Lee, I think we've stopped raking up the percent. Oh, we got a couple more. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'm ready. You're sharing the results. Excellent, excellent. So folks, you're seeing these results now, and the largest cohort, 66%, said 51,000 to 75,000. I'm going to reveal my slide. The real number this year, $48,510. But folks, it is not unreasonable that some of the folks in the classroom also announce those larger fees, right? Whenever we get our media, right, we are always thinking about college costs, hence some of the fear around the process, but we're always hearing about colleges, and some in our backyard. You know, NYU this year, $76,000. The University of Southern California, $76,000. This year, the University of Chicago just announced its tuition, room and board fees and books at $80,000. So it's not unreasonable if you should have, offered some numbers in that larger range, because many schools in your universe and in our universe in general might be charging those larger sums. But at least there is some solace, minor as it might be, but $21,000 and just shy of $49,000 as the average price of college. Okay.
Rob, we actually have a good question from the audience.
Go ahead.
Public colleges outside of your home state, are they double the cost?
That's a good question. And it's hard to, and I hate to give a cookie cutter answer like that. It's hard to tell. But the truth is that there are some states that have a wonderful deal on education. So I'll give you an example. Vermont. You know, the University of Vermont is an excellent deal, and I do a book called Best Value Colleges, and perennially it's been in the book for a couple of reasons. There's less than 1 million people in the entire state of Vermont. So they have to run the University of Vermont, which is a public college, almost as a private school would recruit. So you know, there are some great values to those students. But there are other states like Wisconsin and Michigan that generally might be charging double or more for those students coming from out of state. Now, that's why, you know, so many of the admission practices, and Ms. Kaur knows this, and of course, you know, you as students will see lots of representatives from schools, public as well as private schools, courting students on Long Island, because Long Island and New Jersey export more students per capita than any other state other than California. So you will get, you know, the blessing and the curse of living in the places that we live is that many schools, public and private, will be actively recruiting you, but also actively charging tuition to make you go. Leah, and please do, and thank you so much for volleying that question. Any other pertinent questions as we move on? As Leah was saying, folks, you don't have to save your questions to the end. I'll try to be as coherent as we can, and then answer as many questions as we can at the end that we didn't during the presentation. Now, folks, we said that the biggest concern for students and parents was the average indebtedness that students would actually graduate with. Now, Leah, there's not a poll on this one, correct?
Right.
Okay, so we're just going to use the comments, the chat feature, folks. I want you to slug in there what you actually think the average indebtedness is. This is students from graduating just this past year, what they actually graduated with between public and private schools together. What was the number that they carried for college debt? And you can put it into the chat feature. I can't see the chat from here. So Leah, you're going to have to be my eyes on that.
Yes, I've got 42,000, 200,000, 50,000. 40,000, 70,000, 50,000, 150,000, 75, 50, 50. It's like a game show here. We've got 250,000, 80,000, 125.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Well, we have some good news for some folks. I'm going to put up the real number this year. It's $29,400. But again, folks, it's not unreasonable that we should volley those much loftier sums, because wherever we consume our media from, right, we are continuously hearing about college costs being on the rise, as we know that's the case. The college costs have continued to outpace the rate of inflation 2 to 3 times the rate of inflation every year consecutively for the last 20. But the really soul-crushing stories that we hear about are those focused on student with crushing debt. Even more crushing than that, those students or those stories that profile students who have crushing debt but did not earn their college degree, that did not persist. So it's not unreasonable that we should volley those 150 to 250,000, because many students may carry that. But again, there is some solace, and I think more than minor, to say we're carrying just a smidge less than $30,000. How about that? That's the feel-good statistic here. How about this next one? Not the average, the amount of student debt that exists. And folks, before you even use the comment section, and I want you to roll in, I want you to give those suggestions to us, and Leah will be my eyes on this. But folks, even before you answer, know this. This is a cartoonishly large number. I'm talking cartoonish. Okay, that's my only hint. Go ahead.
200 billion, 16 billion, 1 trillion. Tremendous, someone just said.
Tremendous. I love
2
it.
billion, 1.6 trillion, 3 billion.
All right.
I see a 5 billion.
5 billion. Lightweight. Folks, and some of you have got it right. It's 1.5. It's really between 1.5 and 1.6 trillion. And that number, folks, again, no matter how blessed we are financially, that number just hurts to read. But here's the thing. I would not be a good teacher if I didn't tell you this. That $1.5 trillion is not just inclusive of four-year undergraduate schools, the audience that we're talking to today. It also includes colleges and universities, but it includes law schools, B schools, medical schools, all grad arts and sciences schools, as well as all for-profit and online universities, whether undergrad and graduate. Now, folks, if we just removed law school, business school, and medical school, as well as grad arts and sciences, we would bring that number down by at least 40%. So let's, again, when I always think the power of teaching and the power of an educated consumer is just having all the facts. Like, and you know, myself and Leah, and certainly Ms. Kaur and your full counseling team have these facts. And now you can go forward saying, you know, next time I read that 1.5 trillion number, I'm going to know it's also inclusive of graduate schools and law schools and business schools. So anyway, just to go forward with that kind of information. So, folks, I promised Ms. Kaur that we would share with you a couple of college admission secrets while I had you for the evening. And here's my first admission secret. Every student listening to our conversation or watching our conversation today can go to a competitive college, receive an excellent education, and have a successful future. But folks, this all depends on one thing. And this is the one thing that we have seen so many students get wrong. And we had a little over 1.4 million students go through our Prince Review channel last year. And folks, that's 1 out of every 2 students who applied to college last year. But the biggest mistake that student group made was this. They thought about the college process in the wrong way. They thought about the college process as a game of winners and losers. So I actually picked out a student when I was watching, you know, the names coming in, and Megan Markowitz. I'm hoping that she's still there. So Megan, I'm just going to use you as our student for today. Megan, if you got in to any of those top 3, you know, sort of dream schools, the top most competitive schools in the country, then you would win. But if everybody else on this call, you know, the couple hundred folks that we have here, students and parents, if we got into any of the other nearly 3,000 four-year colleges in the country, then we lost. And folks, I know that there's a better way to go about the college process than a game of winners and losers. And I know Ms. Kaur and your full counseling team at Harborfields thinks the same thing. But I need to know that while I have you here for the next, we're going to call it 32 minutes of time, that you're willing to think differently about college admission for 32 minutes. Are you willing to do it? Yes or no? Let's see some animation, or you can use some thumbs up. Are you willing to think differently about college admission for 30? Excellent. Raised hands. I'm seeing them. I'm seeing them pop up. Nicole is raised. Awesome, Nicole. All right. Okay, folks, if you are truly, you can put your hands down. If you are truly, truly willing to think differently about college admission just for 32 minutes, then I'm going to tell you 2 facts that I am convinced you will hear nowhere else. The first fact, it has never, ever been easier to get into college than it is today. Second fact, it has never, ever been harder to get into college than it is today. Who is this admission quack? How could it both be ridiculously easy and amazingly difficult to get into college? Folks, we are going to try to prove out my completely unscientific theory, but we are going to do it together. Here is the assignment for every student listening to my voice. Folks, you can get real old school, take out a pen and a piece of paper, or you can tweet this to me, or you can use the chat feature, which you know I cannot see. So you have 3 ways. Here's the assignment for you to write in, type in, or send to me via Twitter, and my Twitter is @thePrincetonRev. Here is the assignment for every student listening to my voice. I want you to write down or type in the names of 3 colleges or universities that you would love to see yourself at as a college freshman, with these 2 caveats. Folks, I don't care if you don't have a prayer in heaven to get into any of those schools academically, or $2 saved in the bank to pay for it. So it doesn't matter about academic admission, and it doesn't matter about financial aid. Parents, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to channel your son or daughter who you were sitting next to virtually, or your family member who you were representing from here, and I want you to write down 3 schools that you would love to see them at as a college freshman. Same rules apply. Doesn't matter about money, and it doesn't matter about academic admission. Folks, I'm going to give you a whopping 32 seconds, 27 seconds to write down these schools. Ready? Go. 27 seconds. Any school, folks, is fair game. You can use your chat feature. You can tweet it to me, however you want to use it. 27 seconds on the clock. Any school is fair game. They can be public or private. They could be large or small. They could be urban, suburban, or rural. They could be military academies. They could be co-ed, they could be single-sex institutions. You're getting my point. You have 11 seconds, 10 seconds. These could be, they could be for-profit schools. They could be online schools, heresy. They could be, it could be international schools. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, folks, here we go. 3, 2, 1. I want you to keep your pens in your hands or your fingers on your phones or the chat feature, and I want you to cross off or erase the following schools. Ready? I want you to cross off, number 1, every Ivy League school. Folks, when we did this at Harborfields last year, we had the benefit of hearing the audible groans from everybody in the audience when we forced them to cross off the 8 Ivies. But do it again. Cross them off your list. I want you to cross off the following local schools. I want you to cross off, as much as I love it, NYU. I want you to cross off Fordham. Let's cross off Binghamton and Albany State Universities. Let's cross off Stony Brook just for giggles. One other local school, maybe, how about LIU? They've had some significant rebranding there, LIU. Both of their campuses count. All right, so let's move on from New York City and local. Let's hit a couple of schools. We'll hit one school in upstate New York. Let's hit Vassar. Let's hit a couple of schools in Connecticut. We're gonna hit Fairfield. We're gonna hit University of Connecticut. Let's move on from Connecticut. Let's hit a couple schools in Boston. Oh, here's where it's gonna get fun. Let's hit MIT. Let's hit Boston University and Boston College. We already got Harvard because it's an Ivy. We already got Yale, of course, in Connecticut because it's an Ivy. And Brown, of course, in Rhode Island. Let's hit a couple of schools in New England, further up in New England. We'll hit Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby. Let's hit Union College in upstate New York. I really like that one, but get rid of it. Okay, so let's go down to Middle Atlantic. We'll hit a couple schools there. We're gonna hit University of Virginia. We're gonna hit Virginia Tech. We're gonna hit a couple schools in DC, George Washington, Georgetown, and American. 3 schools in the Southwest, East, Duke, Clemson, and UNC Chapel Hill. Just 2 schools in the Midwest. We're gonna hit Northwestern and University of Chicago. And folks, again, every one of these schools that I'm saying, you're crossing off of your list or you're erasing. We're gonna hit a couple of schools, one school in Texas, we're gonna hit Rice. 3 schools in California, and then we'll be done. We're gonna hit Stanford, University of Southern California, UC Berkeley, and one more, Pomona. Ms. Cora, I think that's probably about 30 schools that we crossed, 25 to 30 schools. Folks, I want you to take your pens down, hands off of your devices, and I'd like to see a showing of hands. Now, Leah, I think we have a poll for this one. Is that right, Leah?
Yep.
Excellent. So I want you to show me who still, by using the polling feature, who still has 3 schools on their list? You can raise your hand. You can use the polling feature as we launch it. Here's the polling feature. Yeah, folks, let's use the polling feature, then we can all see it. Who still has 3 schools on their list? And then, folks, 2 schools on your list. And then, as you can see, 1 school on your list. So if you have 1 school, put it in there. You get the picture. All right, it's still, oh, we're still clicking. I love it. I love it. We're at 52%. 3 schools on your list, 2 schools on your list, and 1 school on your list. All right, Leah, I think we've stopped clicking. We got 42 answers so far. All right, so we'll show the results. So we have 24% at 3, 38% at 2, 38% at 1. So folks, here's the thing. We have a problem here. And the problem is, and let's just recall our exercise. We said it has never been easier to get into college than it is today. And it has never been harder to get into college than it is today. And folks, it has never been easier to get into college than it is today because there are literally, as we were talking about before, there are literally 3,000 four-year colleges in the US alone, but it has never been harder to get into college than it is today because we are all applying to the same 25 or 30 schools. So here's the thing, Leah, we can remove the poll result. Oh, I can remove it from my queue. Folks, if you fell into that category of all 3 of your schools being, being crossed off of your list, here's the thing. We do this exercise often when I'm in a live audience, but we had the opportunity this past year to do it with those 11,000 participants in our College Hopes and Worries survey. So I just want to show you that. So again, we set the stage with the same way, just with many more thousands of people. And we said, okay, what's your dream school if money and acceptance were not an issue? So I'm going to show you the student results first and then the parent results. Students were saying Stanford, Harvard, and NYU, and their parents were saying Stanford, MIT, and Princeton. Now, folks, although I realize that this is a somewhat thoughtfully conceived list, I have to say that, out of the 47,000 students who applied to Stanford this past year, the 4.2% of whom were accepted, folks, those students are superlative indeed. But although these are awesome schools here up on our list, and likely the ones that you put down as well, they're not perfect fits for every student that applies to them, right? The 47,000 students who applied to Stanford are not all going to be perfect fits. The most popular school in the land is the University of California at Los Angeles. 114,000 students applied last year. And folks, of course, right down to our toes, we know that not every one of those students is perfect fit. So we want to make sure that we can balance out what we think is brand and perception of schools, because that weighs into our decision making, but we have to be able to talk about what it means to actually be fit. And we talk about it in 4 ways: an academic fit, a campus culture fit, a financial aid fit, and of course a career services fit. And we're going to get into that stuff as we move on. Folks, I just want to make sure that we shift a little focus to talking specifically about college admission. And I have a comic relief slide here just to sort of tee up this part of the conversation. And I'm going to put up a date and a date line. And I just want to see if you understand why this date and date line are significant to talking about college admission and the component parts of what admission counselors are looking for. So if you just bear with me, you'll see the date and date line. So here it is: Cambridge, Massachusetts, September 1636. If you can use the comment feature, and Leah will be my eyes there and read some of this stuff, why is this date and the date line specifically, why is it crucial to our understanding of college admission? Just volley some answers my way. Why is that date so crucial in the city?
Someone said Harvard.
Harvard, can we sharpen that? Harvard what?
Founded. Harvard was founded.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll say it. This is the September 1636. This is the first year that Harvard invited its freshman class onto campus. The year it opened, right? So I mean, the founding of Harvard. But I like to say, this is when students first showed up in September of 1636. But here's the question: what was the admission team at Harvard just 6 to 9 months before, in the fall of 1635? What were they seeking when they were trying to craft that first entering class of Harvard? What were they looking for? What was the admission team 300 plus years ago looking for? So you use your chat feature, and Leah, you'll be my eyes, and volley what some of the answers are. What were people looking for? What were the admission team? What was the admission team at Harvard looking for?
Crickets. Oh, here we go.
Crickets. Oh my.
Shipbuilders.
Shipbuilders. I've never gotten that answer.
Wealthy students.
Wealthy, money. Yeah.
Cultured students.
Wealthy, money, cultured. Anything else?
The shipbuilder is a good one. I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
Intellect, coming from the upper class.
The upper class. Got it.
A famous name.
Famous names. All right, got it. Okay.
Aristocrats. Oh, here we go. Leadership. White clergy.
White clergy. Okay. Yeah, as crushing as it is, race and ethnicity certainly played into this thing. But the four things that Harvard reports out as they're looking for this first freshman. Oh, go ahead.
Somebody said it. CJ, good for you. Male.
Male, another one. Yes, gender. Totally factored in. The four things that Harvard actually reports out that it was looking for in this first freshman class are the following. Number one, character. Now, this is specifically strength of character, grit, perseverance. What are you bringing to the table that Harvard is going to profit from because you have great, mettle? So that's number one. Background. Now, folks, this is where I think religion, race, ethnicity, gender all fit in there. Wealth, personal wealth, of course. Next, proficiency in Latin, proficiency in Greek, love Harvard College admission. So folks, I put this up here just because I want you to know that whether you are applying to college in the next year or in the next 2 years from now or 3 years, I know we have some freshmen in the audience as well, or you're applying to college 300 plus years ago. Folks, we have to say this out loud. The admission process in and of itself is a really judgy process, right? But the truth is that there are quantitative metrics in the process and there are qualitative metrics in the process. And we saw the quantitative and qualitative just here 300 plus years ago. So let's shift our focus forward and let's think about what admission teams now, current day, are looking for when they're considering you as being part of their freshman class. So I'm going to put this question out to the group and you can use the chat feature and then Leah will volley those answers to me. So here's the question. What is the number one most important piece of information that admission counselors at schools modern times, at schools right now, will focus on as the primary, the most important driver of your college admission application? But folks, before you even type this in, know this. This does not waver. This is completely universal for schools large and small, public or private. I'm going to say it for each of the 3 schools that you wrote down on that poll. What is the number one most important information, that piece of information that does not waver, most important in the admission process?
I'm seeing grades, GPA, involvement, essay, consistency, standardized tests, community service, representation, character. But most overwhelmingly, everyone's saying GPA. Oh, and then one person also said, if you can afford to pay. If you can afford to pay, well done. So, folks that have answered GPA, well done. And that is the answer. But we're just going to sharpen this as well. Really, the answer is your high school transcript is the most important because it answers this question for admission teams from schools large and small. And that question is, that universal question is, did you challenge yourself in high school? What were the challenges that you had? Did you challenge yourself with regular level courses, AP level courses, advanced level courses, IB level courses? What were the opportunities that you had at Harborfields? Did you take advantage, obviously, of those opportunities? And then, obviously, what's the result? How well did you do? What was your GPA, the end result? So, folks, upon exit of this Zoom discussion tonight, we can never underestimate the power, really, and the raw heft of our high school transcript because it is the primary driving factor. Now, we're going to whiz through the rest of them because I think you know what they are. But folks, the second most important piece of information on the list is, I suspect, what lots of folks were answering before as well. I know at least heard it from Leah on standardized tests. Folks, the SAT and the ACT are still powerful powerful gatekeepers in the process of admission. And I'm going to sharpen that. I'm going to say even for schools that are test optional, and I will talk about test optional schools as well, but just let's define what it means to be test optional, because I know we have some younger folks in the audience. Test optional simply means that you needn't submit your SAT or your ACT scores for academic admission to those schools. But for so many schools, so many schools that are test optional will ask if you will submit your SAT and your ACT scores if you want to qualify for scholarship dollars. And folks, I still have such a difficult time reconciling this. Why would a student believe that, or why would a school lead a student and family to believe that they don't look at the SAT and ACT unless we qualify for scholarship dollars? As we talked about before, the biggest concern for students and parents is assuming too much debt and paying for college. So I wouldn't want to preclude, students from that, equation without knowing all the facts. So again, that second most important is SAT and ACT, but let us just be smart upon leaving this classroom later on tonight and understanding the power of the SAT and ACT to earn us money later on. The other parts around the process, as we were talking about, and as we're looking at the Harvard slide still, the idea of the power and the heft of what you're bringing to the table outside of academics, right? Your character, your grit, your perseverance. Folks, admission teams are still looking for those things. And I'm so glad some folks volleyed it before. What are you bringing to the table, activities and otherwise? So if you're a student, and Mary Beth, I'm going to use you as a student. Mary Beth, if you're a student and you can sit down with an admission counselor in your interview, if you're given the opportunity to interview, and folks, if you're given the opportunity to interview upon exit of this online discussion, folks, we can never, ever let that opportunity go unrealized. Mary Beth, if you sit down with an admission counselor, whoever that anointed person is, and say, you know what, I've done my research. I think that I found fit in myself in your school. First of all, that's a very powerful conversation for a young person to have. And it allows there to be no marketing pitch or elevator pitch from you to that school or that school to you. You've come to this table for a discussion of substance on figuring out that idea of fit together. And that's a powerful thing. And you have opportunities to do that human connection, not just with your interview, because not every school allows us to interview, but through your personal statement. Again, a huge opportunity to express those things, as well as your list of extracurricular activities. Megan, I'm going to go back to you. Megan, you and I grew up in different cities. We went to different high schools. We likely had different opportunities academically and otherwise. So Megan, the idea of you and I having the exact list of extracurricular activities that the other person has is probably pretty slim. And honestly, Megan, that's the glory of the process, right? We would never want our list of extracurricular activities to be carbons of one another, right? We want them to be as unique as we are. So folks, let's just remind ourselves that college admission has quantitative metrics, as we've discussed, but it is wrapped in a foil of a human process. And that human process, in light of COVID-19 and its repercussion, is going to be that much more important as we move into the next academic year. So for those juniors in the crowd, or rising seniors in the crowd, I should say, this is going to be a powerful strategy for you to use because of that relationship build and the opportunity that you have with schools going forward. Leah, I want to make sure that I get to more of my slides, so I'm just going to whiz past some of these things. Sorry, I moved past this. Folks, I should tell you, and I write a book called The Best 385 Colleges. I put it online for free, so you don't have to buy the book. But I regularly upset lots of deans of admission and college presidents, and I just want to make sure that I express to you a couple of things about what we're doing and helping students have that vernacular of finding a school that's going to be the best fit. So I regularly survey hundreds of thousands of current college students for this book, and I create ranking lists out of that experience, that exchange with students. So for this book, a little over 143,000 students participated, and I have an 80-question survey, and I ask students questions about their experience that are completely qualitative. So specifically, are your professors good teachers? Do your professors encourage class discussion when they're in class? Do your professors exit class and then you never see them again? Do your professors bring the material that they teach in class to life, or do your professors suck all of the life out of the material that they teach in class? So I want to make sure that I'm giving you information based on primary sources. And although I think I know a lot about schools, folks, it doesn't really matter a whit what I think. We yield completely to student opinion. current college students telling us what their experiences are academically and otherwise. And it's a powerful thing. So I have 62 different ranking lists in the book. And again, don't feel like you have to take notes on this. I'm going to send you a link to the stuff where it lives on our website tomorrow. You can grab the whole book from there. You can look at the ranking list. But here's where I think it's of value. The idea of going to students and talking about what their financial aid impression is of their school, what the career service is, and how they are preparing students as they move through, best food, best residence halls. I mean, so there are many different parts of the college process that I believe we can only glean from one group, and that group is current college students. So anyway, I'm proud of the work, and I think it's of value. I'll just move past this stuff. Also, this question continues to come up to us at the Princeton Review. And folks, honestly, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've heard this question more times than over the last 20 years in general. But I was so heartened by this idea of when I asked this, this question of students and parents on that College Hopes and Worries survey, 99% said, yes, college is worth it. And I suspect none of us would come to this online classroom tonight to, if we assume that college wasn't worth it. But what I really liked about this was the reasons that people were putting down, because I believe that many of us in this classroom tonight probably are feeling these same ways. But to have this conversation 10 years ago, it would have been impossible for students and their parents to voice that college was of value because I'm going to get a better job in a higher education. Or exposure to ideas and so on. But folks, if you're asking this question of the power of your college degree, particularly in light of these COVID times and our changing economic times, it's a powerful, powerful pact indeed. So I just want to make sure that you know that if you feel that you should be asking questions or wanting to visit a career services office when you're on tour at a school, or talk about what students are doing by way of internships and co-ops as you're at a college fair, or you're with a representative that will be visiting Mrs. Kaur's office at Harborfields come the fall, that's well within your right to do so. And folks, I'm doing the same thing at Princeton Review on a scale where we're talking to thousands of schools. So again, as I said before, I hope that we can stay in contact on these particular matters as we move forward. But I want to make sure that I just reserve this next couple of minutes, and then we can open this up for Q&A. I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. I know it's ticking away here, but let's just talk about what's been happening in light of COVID and its repercussion on college admission and testing. And again, folks, I suspect you're gonna have a lot of questions on these, so I just wanna make sure that I'm trying to fire past some of these things as well. And test optional, as I defined before, simply means you needn't submit your SAT and ACT scores for academic admission, but many schools will ask for it for financial aid and scholarships in general. So when we think about this, lots of schools, there's now a list of over 200 schools that were previously required the SAT and ACT, and because of COVID, they have now moved past it for one simple reason. The SAT and the ACT keep getting canceled. So some schools have said, we're just going to do away with the SAT and ACT altogether. Many schools have said, we're going to put in a temporary policy. So the University of California system, which is the largest, other than the State University of New York system, they're both the biggest systems in the United States, have said that they are now moving test optional for those students who are juniors on this call tonight, but rising seniors next year. You'll be in the class of 2021. If you're applying to the University of California system, you will not need the SAT and the ACT. So anyway, just putting it out there as well. But I would be not doing what I believe right down to my toes if I didn't tell you that test optional does not mean test prohibitive or test prohibited. And I say this to my own students. I'm like, listen, if you were thinking about using the spring semester in 2020 to distinguish yourself academically, but now your school has moved from a grade system to a pass-fail system, or if you decided that you were going to distinguish yourself by being leading a school play or doing awesome on the soccer field this springtime, that those things, those in-person face-to-face things are no longer there. I cannot see this in any other way. You can distinguish yourself now with the SAT and the ACT and performing superlatively. You have that same opportunity with subject tests, and certainly with AP exams as they're coming up in the next couple of weeks. They're starting on May 11th. So just let's make sure that we have in our noggins just a very clear understanding of what test optional means and how we can get it working for us in light of these very tough times. So I won't repeat myself here, but SAT and ACT, but as of today, you'll know this, but it's the bitter pill. Let's just say it out loud. The March administrations, the 2 March administrations of the SAT were canceled for the majority of students, and then the May administration, and now as of last week, the June administration. Similarly for the April administration of the ACT. So now that means that things are going to happen, but the next time students can take the SAT is going to be the end of August. It's August 26th, or 29th, I believe. But that's the next time a student can prepare for that test and sit for that test. Now, the College Board, who creates all things AP and also all things SAT, has said, in reparation to you that have lost all of these cancellations, lost the admission through all these cancellations, that you will be able to also sit for a September SAT. So the new SATs are going to, face-to-face, are going to be August, September, October, November, and December. So those are the opportunities that you'll have. Now, interestingly enough, ACT has said, we're still going to keep our June and July administrations of our face-to-face exams. Now, folks, there's no guarantee that that will hold, but we need to understand that if you're wishing to take an SAT this summer, it's not going to happen until the end of August, but if you want to take an ACT, those are still on the books. And ACT has alluded to the fact that you will likely be able to take more administrations of that face-to-face exam in the summertime as well, but they have been cryptic on those dates. But we should remember that there is a registration preference for students, as I have in my last bullet here, specifically for the SAT that has been canceled. So if you want to sign up for that August administration, the order of preference is going to go for students that were in the June administration that were now canceled, or a student that is a rising senior in the fall class of 2021 that does not yet have an SAT score. They haven't taken the SAT. So it is those 2 students' codes that will have the jump on registration. But the College Board has been very clear about this. The College Board has said, we're going to be able to accommodate everybody, because we're also, in addition to adding a testing date in September, we're going to increase the capacity of our testing centers. So literally, there will be, if there is going to be a face-to-face exam for the SAT, literally there will be more seats to accommodate the many, many students, the millions of students who were not able to take the SAT and the ACT in the springtime and likely in the early summer in SAT regard. So this is an important thing. But folks, we can't talk about this without saying, and again, it's a difficult conversation to have, what if colleges and universities don't go back to school in the fall in full, and what happens if high schools don't go back to school in full? College Board has been crystal clear on this matter. And they said just last Thursday that if that is the sad case and students do not go to high school, continue to be virtual as of September start dates, then what will happen? The SAT will become an at-home online test. And as soon as that information came out, the ACT said the same thing, that they would also allow for at-home testing. So again, folks, we don't have any more information because right now there is no other information from the College Board or the group that creates the ACT, but we do know that should that sad fact happen and we continue to be virtual in the fall, that there will be an at-home experience for the SAT and ACT. We'll move on. AP exams. Again, College Board, who creates the SAT, also creates the AP exams. 3 million test takers are going to be taking the AP exams starting May 11th, going to the 22nd, and then again the first week in June. As you guys know this, if you're juniors and likely some sophomores as well, if you're taking AP courses, you'll know that no more are there the 3.5-hour exams that we know in the past, but now it'll be a 45-minute take-home, at-home experience with only 1 to 2 questions, likely in several parts, but 1 to 2 questions. All of those questions are going to be free response questions, and parents will remember free response questions from our high school days and our college days, and that there will be no multiple choice. So all of the work will be written. You can use a laptop, you can use a desktop, you can use any device. You can use a tablet. You can actually take a picture of your handwritten work and send it in. But folks, we need to remember that this is a huge, tectonic, huge undertaking for the College Board, and making sure that all of those 3 million test takers, that's 5 million exams, but 3 million students taking them, are going to be accommodated this in the next few weeks of time. College Board has been very clear about testing integrity and security. If a student is caught cheating, there are just such significant measures that there's just no value in my experience and my teaching experience, and of course Leah's as well, that we would ever condone any student doing anything other than following the exact rules from College Board. But again, folks, this is interesting times, and certainly we'll be reporting back on it. So I just want to whiz past the next slide. Taking tests at home. Folks, again, test integrity and test security are the things that College Board and any other testing company is going to be focused on. But again, creating a space that is yours so that you can be alone, particularly for that 45-minute exam. If you're taking the APs in the next couple of weeks, it is an opportunity that is there for you. Also, those AP exams are going to be open book and open note. And folks, as a longtime teacher, and we say this to all of our students at the Princeton Review, it's so tempting to want to use your books and your notes. Even Google searches are absolutely fair game on this new exam. But 45 minutes is not a lot of minutes. And every precious wasted second on referring to something other than a very quick note is just going to drag your time down and likely your score down. So let's just make sure that we understand that the taboos around using open book and open note is that they're so tempting to pressure test what we're doing, but they're also time lags on our very precious minutes. Folks, and this is right there. I have 2 more slides and then we'll open this up for questions. Again, what should students be doing now? Folks, if I were a student, I advise this to my own students, whether you're going to take the SAT and it's in August, create your plan now. You have a huge opportunity. The best, I've been teacher for 20 plus years at the Princeton Review, and Leah for many years as well. We tell all of our students that the best predictor of success on standardized tests is taking practice tests, is knowing the environment. And this is, what we do, and certainly we do it for many Harborfield students at the Princeton Review, but you can be bullish around these tests. Just as we were talking about college admissions is knowable and navigable, the SAT and the ACT, it's child's play. You can navigate this. You can know these exams, and you can walk into that test environment. I don't care if it's at home or in a face-to-face center, and you can walk in with such confidence and swagger because you will have this time under your belt, these months of being able to study at your pace so that you can use this time, I think, to distinguish yourself. And I don't know very many schools that would disagree with that. Folks, I have one more just a pitch. I do a lot of speaking for Princeton Review, as I mentioned at the beginning. I have a daily YouTube series. We talk about these very issues in more in-depth. So any issues that are affecting college admission or testing or financial aid, I try to do a 10-minute video on it each day, and there's whatever 40 plus videos in there. So anyway, don't hesitate to reach out to us.